let's get right into it. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're cracking open a completely industrialized operating manual. We're looking at the white paper for the Future Lore Studio model. Basically, it's a step-by-step playbook for developing, producing, and eventually automating a scalable sci-fi mini-drama channel on vertical video platforms like TikTok. If you've been wondering how these creators are pumping out such addictive, high-quality serialized fiction, you are in the exact right place.
Look at this quote, because it establishes the incredibly high stakes of serialized fiction right out of the gate. Do not try to manufacture 30 episodes before discovering whether the first 3 are compelling. I mean, that is the foundational philosophy of this entire manual. The absolute biggest trap you can fall into is overbuilding. If you spend months making a massive 30-episode season in a total vacuum, it's just a recipe for disaster. This system, it's all about rapid prototyping, letting actual audience behavior dictate your very next move.
So this manual is essentially a strategic playbook, and here's our agenda for today. We're going to cover 1. The miniature streaming studio, 2. The golden operating rule, 3. The 8-step public pilot, which is super important, 4. The 10-step production pipeline, and finally, 5. Monetizing and scaling up.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the miniature streaming studio.
We really need to reset our expectations of what a studio actually looks like in the vertical era. There's this stark contrast between traditional TV pacing and this high-volume model. Traditional TV, it relies on that slow burn, deep world-building, pacing that really takes its time. But high-volume serialized fiction? Totally different set of physics. It is engineered around pure retention and next-episode desire. You're intentionally reusing a small cast, deliberately recycling a tiny set of locations, and literally every 60 to 90-second episode closes on an unresolved, highly specific story question. You're not just telling a story, you are engineering a mechanism to keep thumbs from scrolling.
Moving right along to Section 2, the golden operating rule.
To manage the risk of producing all this content, you've got to understand the core logic here. And that brings us to the golden rule. You must sell the narrative promise first, prove demand, and never, ever overbuild. As the manual lays it out, you build the world professionally, sure, but you only produce 5 episodes in advance. You launch the first 2, and then, and honestly this is the hardest part, you sit on your hands. You let the audience behavior dictate if your season actually deserves expansion.
This visual perfectly illustrates the stage gate metaphor from the manual, showing exactly how a creator levels up. You don't just start making a show. First, you've got to pass the concept gate with a marketable premise, then the pilot gate, then launch. Only if episodes 1 through 3 show high retention do you actually pass the expansion gate to build out the full 20 to 30 episodes. And then way down the line, once your workflow is rock solid, you hit the automation gate, handing repetitive tasks off to AI. It is a strictly gated progression of survival.
Now for Section 3, and honestly, the absolute heart of our explainer today, the 8-step public pilot. This is the vital proving ground, the absolute make or break moment where a series either lives or dies. Before you scale or even generate a single pixel of visual art, you must pass this pilot gate. This requires hard proof of an 8-episode map, a series Bible, and having those first 5 scripts completely locked in. But the big question is, how do you map out those first 8 episodes to actually guarantee retention?
Well, let's look at the manual's concrete sci-fi example, Lumen 9. It's a story where a crew wakes up 400 years late only to find an AI refusing to give them Earth's coordinates. Notice how the first 5 pilot episodes brilliantly escalate this mystery. Every single episode has a specific narrative job. Episode 1, Awakening and that impossible discovery. Episode 2, the AI refuses the coordinates. Episode 3, a missing crew member sends a weird transmission. Episode 4, the reversal. Turns out that transmission is dated 200 years in the future. And then Episode 5, the protagonist, Ross, discovers his own future death record. Look at how each episode just turns the screw, introducing a worse question than the last.
And it just keeps building right into the final 3 steps of this 8-step public pilot. The characters actively investigate, culminating in this massive mid-pilot crescendo. Episode 6, the AI finally admits the mission was intercepted. Episode 7, they actually find Earth's signal. And then Episode 8, the climax, Earth answers, but flat out orders them not to return. Boom. This ends on such a massive cliffhanger, it practically forces the viewer to demand the rest of the season. These 8 steps, that is your acquisition engine. If this 8-episode arc doesn't grab them, honestly, nothing will.
But remember, within those 8 steps, there is a strict micro-episode rule you have to follow, the 0 to 2 second disruption.
You must open on an alarming line or image immediately, 0 exceptions. Never begin with a greeting, never begin with a recap. In a 60-second video, you literally do not have time for, "Hello, how are you today?" You open right with the crisis.
Okay, moving into Section 4, the 10-step production pipeline. So once that incredible 8-episode pilot map is greenlit, you enter the daily grind of execution through a very strict 10-step pipeline. This timeline maps the rigorous progression of just a single episode, and it demands insane efficiency. Day 1 is writing a precise 130 to 180-word script, and every single word has to reveal info or increase danger. Day 2 is building a shot list of just 8 to 12 short shots to keep production limits low. Day 3 is animating and layering audio. And Day 4 is editing and exporting a clean master, no platform watermarks, so it's ready to be distributed anywhere.
Now, out of all those steps, I want to call out Step 7. The manual flags this as a critical bottleneck where you really need to focus your energy. Building the soundscape. The text explicitly notes that professional sound design will distinguish your work way more than just throwing in an extra visual effect. Think about it. Viewers will totally forgive slightly stiff animation, but they will immediately scroll past bad audio. A proper soundscape isn't just slapping a generic music track under your dialogue. It requires meticulous layering. For our Lumen 9 example, that means laying down a low ventilation rumble for your room tone, adding distant hall creaks for mechanical ambiance, injecting these high-pitched CRT hums and oxygen alarms for the interface, all while ensuring the dialogue is intelligible and centered right above it all. The sound is doing the heavy lifting for your world building here.
And finally, Section 5, monetizing and scaling up.
This is the end game, pushing through those launch and expansion gates to actually monetize the series and build a sustainable business. This progression perfectly maps that essential journey from acquiring viewers with a free public pilot, which we just detailed with our 8 steps, to eventually collecting revenue behind a premium series paywall. The free public pilot pulls them in, the ordered public episodes build a viewing habit, and only then do you introduce the premium series for those die-hard fans who just have to know how the story ends.
The most crucial takeaway here, it's an unbending rule. Do not start at the paywall. You have to establish audience demand and prove they'll watch consecutive episodes before you ever ask them to pay. If you lock episode 2 behind a paywall before they even care about Captain Ross and his oxygen supply, your series is completely dead on arrival.
For a solo creator trying to scale this highly sustainable cadence, the manual gives a magic number: 2. It highly recommends producing exactly 2 complete episodes, plus 1 lore or world-building post per week. You only ever bump that up to 3 episodes once your system becomes radically efficient, because in this game, burnout is the ultimate enemy.
As we wrap up this explainer and leave you to think about that final automation gate, where repetitive tasks like folder creation, file naming, and script-to-shot list conversions are just handed off to AI and code, we have to ask a provocative question. In a fully industrialized, highly automated studio system, what is the creator's true remaining value? According to the manual, while the computer handles the repetition, the creator retains the taste, the emotion, the pacing, and the final visual selection. When anyone can generate a sci-fi video, your unique human taste is literally the only product you're actually selling. Thanks for tuning in, and keep building.